Right, today is an event that we're hosting on behalf of NSSN and the New South Wales Government. So I'm not going to do too much talking at all other than what I've already done so far, and I'm going to hand you straight over to Julie Lockyer from the Department of Industry to give you a bit of a preview on the event today. Okay, Julie, over to you.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. This initiative is part of the Advanced Manufacturing Industry Development Strategy that we launched around 12 months ago. But one of sort of the four key areas that we are looking at sort of with the strategy is advanced knowledge. And this is where sort of we're passing on that knowledge between universities and industry. And more importantly, sort of industry can see that return on investment through that partnership as well. And this is what today's all about, is hearing from industry exactly what the benefits were on sort of that advanced knowledge area. The next area that we talk about is the advanced processes. So we look at sort of the evolution of Industry 4.0, advanced technologies. Again, that will sort of come out in our session today as well, because we see that sort of manufacturing has to move. It has to move to that advanced level, and we need to support industry along the way. And how can we do that? There's many different sort of ways we can look at sort of the skills development that we have in the Industry 4.0 training that we're starting to roll out in New South Wales. We can also look at sort of the evolution of lean manufacturing and moving into sort of the Industry 4.0 area. We then sort of, as we move, and David has a wonderful story about sort of LA Services and how they moved from sort of looking at manufacturing and what they were doing, and over the 30 years, they've now started sort of bringing in those advanced processes, advanced knowledge. They're working with universities, but along the way, they had to see how could they change their business strategy. Suddenly, they had to start thinking about a digital strategy as part of that business strategy, looking at their workforce development, not in isolation, but how does it link to their vision and also to their mission statement as well. If we create those three different areas, which totally align to what Michael's going to be talking about with the Advanced Manufacturing Growth Centre, we automatically get the fourth. And we're here to support you on that area of growing your export potential and also looking at investment opportunities. And those investment opportunities might be coming into New South Wales, or it could also be about sort of the investment opportunities that you may have in those export potential as well. So what we're sort of, how we're getting the message out to the industry is we've started a Advanced Manufacturing Connect program. The Connect program is where you register online and we invite you to sessions like today, but also we send out information that sort of tells you about some of the initiatives and the innovation that's happening in the industry through a newsletter. It's a bi-monthly newsletter. If you have any events that you would like to promote as well, we can promote it on sort of the What's On page, which is connected to the Connect page as well. So that just sort of also leads me to, we're actually having today's event, we are having it filmed, but also we are having a story with Manufacturing Monthly. So I'd like to acknowledge Manufacturing Monthly and their support. We've sort of been having discussions with them over the last couple of months to start promoting New South Wales because we do some great work and we just need to get out there and promote ourselves and tell everybody else how good we are as well. So please register if you're not already registered on the Connect, and I'll make sure that you get regular updates. If you have a story, I was talking to Matt earlier, and we're going to put his story on the Connect page in the next couple of months as well. So thank you again for attending today, and I'm going to hand on to the next person.
That'll be me.
That'll be you.
Thanks, Julie. Ladies and gentlemen, after the, no doubt you're going to have some questions of the speakers as they come to and fro. We are having a panel discussion at the end of the main talks here. There'll be 4 of the speakers sitting out here, and if I'd ask you to just reserve your questions until then, and then you have an opportunity of talking to them face to face. Okay, the next speaker we have is Michael Sharp from AMGC, who's going to be talking about the value of manufacturing and research development. Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And so what Julie said around export is such a key driver. You know, at the Advanced Manufacturing Growth Centre, we've done some pretty great research. It's world-leading research because we've been out talking to manufacturers just like yourselves. We've asked for your opinions and your feedback, which has helped us deliver this research, which you can download for free on our website at AMGC. I'll draw your attention to the latest report, which is around resilience. And what does it mean today to be a resilient manufacturer? And so one of the key drivers around that is to be more diverse in your business. Because what we found is that Australia is actually one of the most volatile countries in the world for manufacturing. When times are good, we do really, really well. When times are bad or tough, we do it really, really tough. And so one of the key ways to level that out would be around exporting. Now, I'd much rather see the potential for your business to have a global audience of 7 billion potential customers, in addition to the 25 million here in Australia. And so there's people in the room here today that can help you around exporting. There's plenty of resources available on the website as well. But I encourage you to look at our research, download those booklets, because it's feedback from companies just like yourself. We've been demonstrating the research via various projects, and I'm going to touch on one project, which is the Formflow company for bending corrugated iron, which everyone said you can't bend corrugated iron, it'll crack or it'll crease. And yet here's a startup company that has done just that, and they're getting ready to export those machines globally. We're a significant sector of the Australian economy. 10% of the Australian workforce is involved in manufacturing, so it's worthy of our recognition, worthy of our investigation, and worthy of our support. And we can all encourage each other. Collaboration is the key word here, because we're stronger together. We can share our research, we can share our resources, and we can share our experience. And so that gets us to, this is the most important graph you'll see, and it's again available on our website. All this information is there. But it's much more today. Advanced manufacturing is much more than just making stuff. It's much more than production. Manufacturing in today's world means more around research and development and unlocking the value of some of our world-class researchers. We've got some of the best minds right here in Australia. And I've been able to take some of the professors out of our great universities and onto the factory floor right across the state. And there's an opportunity for them. They learn something too, because we've got some outstanding business people, you know, manufacturing right across the nation. And to get their experience and get these great minds and unlock that potential, it's a great experience. And I think there's so much more we can do in Australia with that. I'll just draw your attention to the last one there, which is around services and the service economy. You'll hear the word servitisation, and I'll get onto that one around. I'm sure anything will touch on that. But I think there's a few slides missing, but that's okay. The service model is Formflow. They have developed this machine now for bending corrugated iron. And so now they're looking at exporting those machines globally. But the potential is now that they, with the sensing technology and with the cloud, they have a whole new business model that they can unlock. And I'd encourage you to think about the products that you manufacture. Is there a way that you can get your cash flow in a different way by offering a service model? So no longer do you need to sell this machine. They can actually provide the machine on a service basis. And if the customer doesn't pay their royalty that month, through the cloud I can actually switch that machine off. And so this is a technology that's available to Australia today. It no longer matters that we're geographically removed from the rest of the world. We actually have this potential to take on the world with world-leading technology, whole new service models. Think about the cash flow. You no longer have to fork out big bucks for this piece of capital equipment. So the customer wins. If Formflow, as an example, come up with a new way or a new addition to that machine, they can find those customers and just contact them and say, we'd like to add on this new widget to that machine to make it even better. So really what they're doing by having this service model is locking in a long-term customer, rather than just selling that machine up front and hoping that someone else comes and buys another one. So just think more around the service model in your business, I'd encourage you again, look at our website. The latest platform we have is a separate website called Manufacturing Academy. And so I've been around the country interviewing our members, getting them on the camera, and you can hear from them on the Manufacturing Academy website. They're sharing their journey of how they've transformed their business to be an advanced manufacturing company in today's world. It's an online learning platform, so you can just log in and learn on that website and learn from people just like yourselves. And our next module on that website will be around circular economy, and you're going to hear a lot more around that. So feel free to reach out any time. I'm here for the morning, so thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Michael. I'll take full responsibility if you didn't get all your slides.
It's fine.
They obviously didn't download somehow.
All good.
My apologies for that. No doubt when you got your invitation, you're all wondering what NSSN stands for, and I did too. So I think probably we'd better hear about that now. So I'm going to introduce Anthony Morphin, who's going to tell you all about NSSN. First thing you're going to do is tell you what the acronym means.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so the NSSN is the New South Wales Smart Sensing Network, and we're one of 4 Department of Industry funded networks in the state that are basically here to connect our member universities or the various universities in the state with industry, and trying to basically bridge the gap between R&D universities and people like yourselves that are working in industry and working in the economy. So this is a complicated slide, but I think I can simplify it quite a bit. We sort of see ourselves as connecting the universities, industry, and what we call sort of the commercialization space here in the state. And so our member universities are basically the strongest and very capable research universities in New South Wales and the ACT. And the research that's taking place at these universities, like Michael was just saying, is second to none. And what our members are actually interested in doing is connecting with industry, understanding what the unique challenges are that industry face, and trying to participate and support industry as much as possible. And I think the important point to make is that the reason why researchers want to understand what's going on in the industry and being able to support it is it helps them to have greater impact. And I think that a lot of researchers went into doing research to try and improve society, improve the economy. But it's obviously very hard to do if you're not talking to industry itself. And so what we're interested in doing is trying to make connections with what we call maybe the knowledge demand. So this would be the state government, federal government, and industry in the state, and trying to basically facilitate better connections between industry and the universities in the state. So what that would look like is you would talk to myself, someone like Michael, start to explain some of your problems, and it might turn out that you would benefit from some sort of R&D. And what we do is we facilitate connections to all of our member universities in one step. And so it actually removes the barrier of having to go to all of the universities in the state, asking them who might be an expert in that space, trying to make an introduction yourself, trying to then find funding, doing this whole process and doing it over and over and over again. What we do is we work with all of our member universities, try to understand what you're dealing with in your business, send out information to all the universities at once, and then basically put together a list of all the top researchers that we can find that would be able to support something that you're interested in, and then make introductions, personal introductions to each of these researchers, and then try to help you find the researcher that you best connect with and you think would be able to solve a problem that you're facing. And I guess after that, assuming that you find someone that can support your business, then obviously there's going to be some positive outcomes from this research, and what we're trying to do now is actually understand how you might be able to commercialize and upscale this research. So universities aren't in the business of trying to own IP and commercialize it themselves. They like to see it go back to their partners. But one of the wonderful things about being based in New South Wales is there's a huge number of companies that do prototyping, electrical engineering, do everything you might need to take technologies that have been developed at the university and get them ready to be produced here in the state and, like Michael was saying, potentially exported. So we're specifically looking at smart sensing, and smart sensing is an incredibly broad theme, incredibly broad term. So it goes everywhere from sensors that you might use in manufacturing, detecting things like temperature, vibrations, machines that are turning on, turning off, all the way to data and data analytics. So I think what makes a sensor actually smart is the ability to take data, digest it, do something with it and actually make a smart decision after that. So I think we have a number of themes. They span the entire economy, and I think the important point to make is that across the network we have about 550 researchers and experts that work across this space, and they cover all of our themes and then some, and these researchers work at over 110 different research institutes and centers. So they have specialized equipment, they have specialized knowledge, and can immediately start working on problems with techniques that may not be available to every company. So I think yeah, it's a tough term to define, but I think basically the take-home message would be that if you are producing any sort of data or can imagine something that would help you make a decision, there's going to be a way to collect that information. There's going to be a way to understand that with some sort of algorithm or software, and to make the processes that you're working on a little bit easier. So I'll be around later today. I'm happy to talk to everyone if you have any questions, and otherwise, please check out our website, contact us online, and look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Just before we move on to Dr. Urfa, the discussion we're having today really resonates with us, because some years ago now, Western Sydney University were involved and recognised very seriously that there was a big gap, a gulf, between R&D facilities and small business and startup business. The view was, and I had a discussion with Keith McLean from CSIRO, who'd been at the manufacturing forum in Sydney, and I said to him, Keith, that was a great presentation, but how are you going to encourage SMEs or startups to talk to CSIRO? I mean, if you start talking to CSIRO or any other institution, most people think, whoa, too big, too expensive, elitist, why would they want to talk to me? And it really sparked a thought, and we ran a couple of events to try and take that myth out of the concept of engaging with R&D institutions, and I think it worked. But it's delighted to see that the government now has taken up the same sort of baton and moving on with this. Because what I want to do now is introduce Dr. Andre Urfa, who's going to tell you about how to engage with Western Sydney University. Andre, over to you.
Thank you.
There's your...
Yeah, so I guess I've been with the university now for about 4 years, and the big change started for this university about 5 years ago, when we had a change of leadership at the top, a new Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, and he established a new office which is called READY, Research, Engagement, Development and Innovation. I think they were more interested in the acronym, and then I had to find 4 words for it. But and really, when you think about university traditionally, how they have been funding research, it's all about competitive grants. So there's researchers sitting in their offices thinking about problems in the world and how they can solve it, and they come up with a research proposal. They submit it to a competitive funding body, and hopefully it gets funded. But 5 years ago, there was a bit change in direction, and really the management at the time said to all the researchers, you're empowered and encouraged to go out there and start building research partnerships with anyone out there, industry, but that can be very broad. It can be not-for-profits, charities, small, medium, large enterprises, and work on real-life problems that you can provide a research solution to. And really, ready business, how do you make that easy for people to engage with the university? Just like you said, Anthony, perfect lead-in. It's really how do you find the individuals that can work together successfully on fantastic projects. So there's networks out there, there's Launchpad, and any project that you will have with a university or with our university will eventually come through Ready Business. And we will help you translate 2 different worlds, bring them on one page, make sure that obviously the budgeting is right, the pricing is right, and the contracts are right. And off you go. So we really want to make it as simple and easy for you guys as possible. And off you go, so you can concentrate on the fun bits, and we take out the boring bits. So it's really, as I said, we're really looking for these research partnerships with you guys. And that's all you need to know. There's the interface. we made the second interface, which is Launchpad. No matter what, we're working very closely with John and his team, and as soon as there's opportunities, we get pulled into the conversation and can help you guys get a good outcome. Yeah, so I'm around as well for the morning, so if you want to come and talk to us, I've got my colleague here, Michaela, so we're a very small team, so we're very multitasking, and but it's definitely something that we've been growing over the last 4 or 5 years, and I think the sky's the limit, and the government is really catching on to that and supporting us greatly. I think it will be great to keep working together more and more. Thank you.
Thanks, Andre. Yes, we at Launchpad have a great association with Ready, and I should probably acknowledge that Launchpad and to a lesser extent some of the funding that goes to Ready is via the BBIP program the New South Wales Government is running. BBIP is Boosting Business Innovation Program, and all universities are involved in it, and we've had a significant uptake on the tech voucher side of things. Some of you guys would have had tech vouchers already, and this is where Ready and Launchpad get involved very, very closely. But that's not the only way. There are a lot of other research programs that we're happy to discuss, and we've got a great team, and Andre's one of them. There's only a small team, but by crikey it's good. So we've got some great assistance for you there if you want to contact us and pursue that. Okay, the second part of this event today is really you want to hear about what's going on with some of the guys who've done research and doing great stuff out there. So we've got 3 case studies that we want to show you, and we've got 3 speakers obviously attached to those. So the first one I'm going to introduce is from eVisuals, Matt Lynch. Where are you, Matt? There he is. Great. Let's get this thing organised for you.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Now, my business isn't in manufacturing, but what I'm going to talk about, or Anthony asked me to talk about today, is the road from the idea through to the tech voucher and the research we're doing at the moment. So, my background, I run my small business, but I also work as a professional firefighter with Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and I have done for 13 years. Now, my role as a firefighter is basically an incident controller in the early stages of an incident. So the first officer that arrives, and my job is to gather information from the site and make the first strategic decisions. So where we're going to task our crews. So obviously, it's a very, everyone will know the Grenfell fire. There's a lot of high-rise fires, and unfortunately, the systems that are in place now to control building evacuations are basically from the 80s. Nothing's improved. So you'll be familiar with your fire warden training where you get the beep beeps and the whoop whoops as you evacuate. But there's been no way to track building occupants. Now, my company, we started out doing training videos for building occupants, so that everyone that missed the training would go along and watch a video. So we're fairly successful with that, but the big problem we have in buildings is, one, the fire wardens give a verbal report once only and then they evacuate. You need to locate all the building occupants over time, and also mobility impaired persons, so where they are at the moment, at any point in time. So, with this idea, I met Anthony Morpher at a networking event at the Uni in New South Wales when I was looking to find out what I could do. And immediately Anthony said to me, well, look, there's a lot of researchers around at different universities that are looking for problems to solve. And my problem was, how do we track building occupants inside a building during emergencies? So within a week, Anthony had lined me up with meetings with academics. I think I had about 6 or 7 meetings with different academics. And every time I went and met with them, they had already experience with using sensors in buildings, but also they had great ideas on what they could do with my funding. So I eventually met with the University of Wollongong, and they had a facility set up and ready to go. But basically, because I went through NSSN, it was one email to Anthony, and I had all this access to all these academics that were really keen to help me out. So the idea that came up was using artificial intelligence to view the CCTV images inside a building analyse them, and bring that data back. Okay, so the next step was funding, or where I was going to get my funding from, and that was the New South Wales Government had the tech voucher program. So once I'd met with the academics, we sat down and said, okay, these are our goals, and it was very, very easy for me in a small business to access the tech voucher and get approval. The university did the, basically the outline. We agreed on IP, which I gained the IP for the project, and now we're in the last month of our research, and we're looking at our next steps. So the process from meeting Anthony and going through NSSN and then going through the universities and meeting all these academics who, in my opinion, they're all crying out for something really to get their teeth into. They've got all these skills and then they are looking for problems, whereas industry, I think, should be coming to them with the problems and saying, can we solve this? So for me, it was a really, really easy process, and I recommend it to anyone. It's so easy to go through. So what I've got, the last bit now, is just a bit of a promotional video, because I want to keep it short, but basically what we're doing. And as John pointed out, I'm wearing the same clothes as in the video, so they call that continuity. Yes. But basically this is just a promo of what we're doing at the last part of our research. And then the next part now is we're trying to get a test site to put this system in. And ideally, the goal is to have building occupant data not only available in the fire control room for the incident controller, but to pass that data to fire trucks who are arriving so they can see a breakdown of where the people are, where there's mobility impaired persons, all from just a camera set up and a computer sitting down in their fire control room. So I'll quickly play this and then I'll wrap it up.
Emergencies in buildings are difficult to control, and confirming the location of building occupants is currently reliant on verbal reports from building wardens and extensive searches by emergency services. eVisuals and the Smart Infrastructure Facility at the University of Wollongong is researching and developing a system called Incident that gives emergency responders the critical information that they require about the building and its occupants in real time.
As Director of the Smart Infrastructure Facility, I'm very excited about our collaboration with eVisuals on the Incident project. This project will help us to adapt and improve the technology we've been using on edge computing to adapt it to disaster management in buildings.
Using NVIDIA hardware and artificial intelligence, the incident system can differentiate the firefighters searching the building from other building occupants, and also reports any people who cannot evacuate.
The idea for this project is to use artificial intelligence, and more specifically deep neural network, to train a model that will be able to recognize people and firemen, and we will make it very efficient in a way that we can deploy the model on an edge computing device.
A project like Incident is an ambitious one, but with the help of the Smart Infrastructure Facility at the University of Wollongong, we're confident that the system can make an incredible improvement in building safety and emergency incident control.
We hope this project will make a difference in the way emergency services respond to disaster issues, and there's nothing more urgent and important than disaster management, especially in buildings.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Right, yeah. Okay, just want to quick... Right, ladies and gentlemen, the next person I'd like to introduce is David Fox from LA Pressure, who's one of our prize clients. So, David, where are you? Yep. Up to you.
Okay, so I guess yeah, we've engaged with Launchpad for a while. I guess my story is slightly different to that one, and every story is different. So that's why I guess it's important to get a collection of people together and just talk about different variations of it, and we can all learn from that. So LA Pressure, LA Services, there's lots of different names going around. That was one of our lessons about actually as a small business, you're good at marketing and branding, and so that was one of our lessons learned, that we didn't do that very well, and so we're still working on how to fix that. One of many things we've learned along the way. So my talk is a little bit about just an academic partnership with Western Sydney and what that kind of happened, what happened to that, and how it kind of extended out to a much bigger thinking. But this is where we got started, in this very building. About 3 years ago, I think, was when we first started to talk to Don. So what is it about? So this is kind of what we were doing. These sorts of things, sort of big, heavy bits of static equipment. And so we had to kind of think about, well, what was that in a future state? Was a really challenging thing. And I guess if you're in a startup, you kind of got a fresh business and a new business, and you're not shackled to all these things that are going on in the past. Where this is a business that's been going for 37 years and doing the same thing for a long, long time. How do you kind of shift that thinking? And so it was a different sort of problem. And so, yeah, 2008, it was some of the sensor and data acquisition research we did with the tech voucher with Western Sydney. So that vessel's still up in the lab up here. And we're looking at what is the next stage, and we've been working through that. So as I said, trying to understand that future state on a business that's very caught up in its past. So some of the questions I guess I asked myself particularly was, how does the industry hype apply to us? Very hard to see when you're kind of looking at very dull industrial equipment. Can it really add value? If so, where in the business and how? How have we got digital skills? We don't have the skills. Why add sensing at all, really? That came across our mind. How could it really add value? And I didn't just see how it was going to relate to us. Initially, it was very hard to see that. So, a journey that's taken a long time, and I guess that's why it's 3 years, and we're still kind of feeling like we're just starting to take, bigger steps than what we were. So I guess one of the things that I certainly got out of talking to academics, and I've had a different route because NSSN didn't exist when we started, was I started to road trip around and meet lots of academics, which took some time, but it was certainly interesting. They certainly pushed my thinking outward without a sales pitch, so it wasn't like in the consulting space. It was more, they were genuinely interested in finding things that could help us, and so that was a difference that I saw between consultants and academics. And academics had a really deep knowledge of things and would say things to you that would just like kind of shift your thinking. You think, wow, So for us, one of those aha moments was probably early on when Don Wright said to us, look upstream and downstream of your product. So our product is the one in the middle. So basically he was forcing us to go, well, look at the material side of what you do and where could you add value on that side, and then look at what does your customer actually do with your product. I'm pretty sure that owning that bit of equipment isn't really their end game, it's just a process to get there. So that changed our thinking a bit about, what are we actually selling? And I guess, as was mentioned earlier by you, Michael, we started to think, do you actually need to sell these things sometimes, or could you actually lease them? At that point in time, we hadn't kind of got our heads around fully how that might work, but today, as I stand there, we're much clearer on how that could work in terms of shifting our business out to different areas we never imagined. And then we could tap into that with a different business model, completely different model. So how did that touch point impact us? I guess I just wanted to touch on a couple of lessons, I guess, not so much around the technology. And I deliberately put in there a word cloud in German because it's kind of like that. It's so confusing. There's so much going on. If you don't know the language, you've got no idea. So that was, I guess, for me I'm a very visual person, so visually that was how I felt. I didn't get it. So the photos there of the team at Western Sydney, so that was actually an intern we pulled out of Macquarie Uni, and we stuck him up here to do his internship. This was the way it worked. He rang up on the right day and lived just around the corner, so it kind of worked. And that's been really good for us to have some of that cross-pollination as well. So the lessons that I guess I want to mention are that getting clarity across the landscape was one really important one. A definition and the context for Industry 4 was really important to us, getting that right. Having business models that actually work for the technology, so thinking about that rather than getting swept up in the emotion of the technology, which is really easy to do and how we started. And the workforce needs around that, because as we're starting to see, it's a massive shift in what we're experiencing or what we're going to need in the future. So I thought I'll just run through those 4 things very quickly. So for us, clarity across the landscape was, okay, there's Industry 4, there's the business model, the canvas, and how you apply value and feasibility, those things. And then what is the workspace? What is the social experiences and skills and the expectations of the future workforce? How are we going to attract the best talent if we're a dirty and dangerous looking organisation that only makes really old products? We're probably not going to get the best people in the house to come and help us do that, and we're going to need really skilled people. So they were the three things that we had to get clarity across to actually work our way forward. The next one was that definition of Industry 4, so finding a context for it that actually suited us. So for us, this came out of McKinsey. It was around big data, the advanced analytics, human and machine interface, and the digital to physical transfer was the four things that really stood out for us in terms of that Industry 4 bubble that we could actually hang on to and go, okay, this is how it relates to us and starting to make sense. So that was the next sort of big lesson for us. Business model canvas was the next one. As I guess, I started to move away from, my background of being a trade, then vet training and then engineering. It was always about technically the solution. So those sorts of things, and I hadn't really had any training in thinking about it from a business point of view. So the last 3 years for me has been very much about retraining my brain to think it from a business aspect and how do you leverage that, how do you create business environments, how do you get partners, how do you get fundraising, how do you do all these different things. So that's been a real lesson for me. And the business itself has always been about the product and the technical solutions. So even for the business itself, it's been learning, how do we deal with it? How do we deal with succession? How do we deal with all these things to actually get the revenue and to get the business structure in place and get the funding behind it to make these things happen technically that we want to happen. So one of the best things I saw was at a business model designer. She is now managing director of us too. She talked about having feasibility, desirability and viability over the business model canvas and the different places. So that was a really moment for us to understand the context for the business model canvas in terms of putting technology and putting this in place and putting viability in place. So for us, this was a way we actually felt we could actually move forward and get hold of it. So I'm starting to aggressively approach that now that I've got some comfort around the context of what the business model canvas meant, because it was very vague to start with. I didn't really get it. So the last part of it was around those skills and the future skills in the social context. So I guess we started to work with different universities, and not anything formal, just I guess a willingness from academics to be really involved in something that's, I guess, new and exciting. And so we also set up with Liverpool Boys High, so we have an internship program going with them, and we've actually got these students working in innovation spaces that we're doing. And that's actually led us to understanding better about how education's working and putting us in those conversations, and also understanding what is next generation thinking. And that led us to thinking more about, okay, our existing employees, how do we actually shift them? What sort of work environments do we need to create that deep learning that needs to go on? And a shift in mindset that I'm just coming in for a job, but I'm actually part of moving something forward bigger. So that was still very much a work in progress, but I think that's the area that actually took off better than the other areas, because I think there was a huge appetite for it in the education sector. And so we found a partner very easy and started to move forward very quickly, and other people have come in and helped us to do that. So that's it for me. So yeah, fairly simple journey so far, but learned a lot about business and putting it all together. So, that's it.
Thanks, David. Okay, the final speaker we've got today, the final case.
Good morning, everyone. My name is JP Liu. I am currently working on rapid electronic manufacturing right here in Western Sydney Uni Launchpad. Today, I would like to share with you my experience in government support and uni support that I've received. 1.5 years ago, I was alone working in my dark and gloomy garage, trying to develop a product right from Australia. I successfully developed a product called Centera breadboard, and I launched it on Kickstarter. And within 30 days, I raised $200,000. Okay. Like everyone else, I have my product made in China. Okay. The reason why is because it's cheap. But little did I know, cheap comes with a cost. Right? Cost number one. My product has 5 colors. Okay? In order to have the Chinese manufacturer make my product, the minimum order quantity is 1,000 per color. That means if customer needs 5 products with 5 different colors in 100, I have to order 5,000 units from the Chinese manufacturer. And that's equivalent to $100,000. Okay. After selling 500 to customers, I have 9,500 in capital tied up, which is equivalent to $90,000. That's one of my first problem. Okay. Problem number 2 is language and cultural barriers. When dealing with customers, when dealing with suppliers overseas, we have communications and cultural thoughts, different thinkings, and different way of representing something. The second thing is a time zone difference. That means I often have to wait till 8, 9 o'clock at night for the people to come online to chat with me. And that translates to about 1.5 hour loss per day, and which is about 390 hours per year. And when we translate the hour loss and the time loss, opportunity loss, and that's equivalent to $39,000 a year. Problem number 3. When there's a supply and a demand situation, there's a process called lead time. A lead time is when you start placing an order till you get the product. The time between that period is called lead time. Okay, my lead time from the Chinese manufacturer is 30 days manufacturing plus 10 days shipping to Australia, which is 40 days. It's a very long lead time. Due to the long lead time, I was not able to react to any change. Each change requires 40 days. Today I receive a product. If there's something that I need to change, it will be another 40 days later. And due to all this long lead time and unable to react to change, I'm losing customers. With all these 3 problems I have, I was literally burning money. Lots of money. And I was struggling to find a solution whereby I can fix all these problems until I came to know about Launchpad. Launchpad is one of the technology business incubator right here in Western Sydney Uni. I was lucky to be able to be accepted as one of the startups. And as soon as I'm in the Launchpad, I'm starting to get to access to university research know-how. And I'm able to enjoy this $30 million building here with very cheap monthly costs. Immediately, I was assigned with an advisor that get in touch with KPMG, helping me to get access to R&D tax incentive. And I was able to get to a government's grant tech voucher really quickly in no time. From the tax incentive and tech voucher that I received, I was able to get machines set up right here in this building and making my product right here. This is a semi-automated pick-and-place machine to make electronic circuit boards. And I was able to get beautiful. And the outcome is a beautiful electronic circuit board used by majority of the Australian school as STEM education and technology education. So from there, I'm able to make boards in any quantity I wish, in any shapes I wish, any colors, and any form factors, and have them packed right from the desk over there and shipped right from there from Western Sydney Uni. So my outcome was from 90,000 capital tied up, I can do on-demand manufacturing, starting just 1 unit. No capital tied up at all. And I don't have to communicate with long distance, and I don't waste any money at all. And the most important factor is I'm able to react to change in just 1 day. Customer place an order, tomorrow I'll supply the product. If there's something wrong, I react to it, and the change is just 1 day. So I'm able to achieve this outcome because when government and university work together to support startup, every problem has a solution. Thank you.
Thanks, JP. Now, before everybody comes rushing over to me and says, I want some space at Western Sydney University and I want to work over there, JP actually works over there and he does all his operations from over there too. We are a bit limited for space, but we are going to be looking at that in the future. There's a few other campuses going up around the place, and Launchpad, I'm pleased to announce, is going to be featured in most of them. Okay, that's the presentations for today, but as I said at the start of this event, there's an opportunity for questions. And I'd like to invite the speakers up now, and we'll get some chairs just up here and field some questions from you guys, because no doubt you've got a few. Yes, sir, over you.
Michael, you talked about servitisation in the presentation. I understand how the cash flow is attractive then for a customer who can then get an expensive bit of kit and get access to it and then pay almost like a pay-by-use model.
Yeah.
How does it work for the supplier? How do they fix their cash flow? Because they have to build the device or the piece of equipment in the beginning.
Sure. I think the key advantage for the supplier is that they're locking in that customer. So the cash flow will be more regular. You know those payments are coming on a regular basis, so you can plan your business around that. And also if they don't pay, as I mentioned, you have that technology now to just switch that machine off until they do pay their monthly retainer. So it is a whole new business model, but I think that the great potential for Australian companies is to lock in those customers over a longer term.
But does it require a finance partner? It's a little bit like you could have a car manufacturer, and we're all familiar with renting a car, but the car manufacturer got paid by the rental company. They didn't sort of wait to sort of pay the car off over, say, the 3-year period that the rental company might have owned the car.
Yeah, sure. No, I think you raise a very good point, and there's opportunities, you know, around that sort of.
Someone's got to fund
Sure.
A and B.
Yep.
Anthony, you're supposed to be up here too. Sorry, I didn't call you up. There's no doubt there's going to be some questions about NSSN, and I'm going to have a couple of them.
We need a better acronym.
Yeah, that's quite right. Actually, I'll throw one to Andre right off the bat. What is the procedure about contacting, if I were an SME and I want to get involved with the university, what's the best way to go about that? I mean, do I pick up a phone and ring you, or how do I do that?
One way, yeah. So if you have a research problem, you've got my contact details or our contact details, just get in touch. We have a bit of a chat together, what exactly it is that you need. And then I can look internally for the right researchers to come and have a chat with you about the problem and whether there is a solution that is on offer. And if everything works out all right, then obviously we have to talk the finer details about how the project will look like, duration, deliverables, money. Clearly you have to point out there's no freebies in the system, so everything needs to be costed properly, and there's great support schemes available. So Innovation Connections is one, you have tech vouchers, so yeah, we just look at different options how to structure a project together. But clearly at the end of the day, it's individuals working together, so you need to get along well, and obviously have some common ground there. So the university is a big mess. We make it as easy as possible for you guys to talk to the right person without wasting your time to chase that person down. Other options, obviously, at an event like today, if you start talking to a researcher that's in the audience, and there's a couple here, and if that leads to anything more, again, Ready Business will be involved to facilitate that process.
Okay, that's a good point. There are no freebies, but one of the big things that I found early in the piece was, I recall going back to the conversation I had with Keith and Payne at CSIRO, was that it's not an exorbitantly expensive exercise to get involved with the university or CSIRO for that matter. We're talking about commercial rates, but we're not talking about overinflated 5-star type rates. They are commercial rates, and if you start looking at what they can return to you, the value for money is extraordinary. Because let's be honest, where else are you going to get that sort of expertise? And if you're going to go, I've been through a divorce, a few others have been through a divorce. I mean, if you're going to go through a divorce and want to protect your assets, you get the best paying lawyer around, don't you? That's what you have to do. So therefore, when you start looking at research and you talk about the livelihood of your business, aren't you going to get the best person or best value for money around? And that's really what you ought to consider on this. And look, don't be frightened to shop around. There's this intimidation factor about universities and R&D institutions where, should I ask them the question about Is it impertinent to ask how much it's going to cost me? No, it's not. Ask it up front. Get a quote. Make sure you get a clear idea of the understanding of the cost of the exercise going forward. Okay, that's my sprout for the day.
David, you touched on how Industry 4 is a whole range of different technologies. I've kind of got a bit of a question for you and a bit of a question for Anthony, which is how did you land on which technologies are relevant for your business? And then for Anthony, what sort of problems does sensing help solve?
Yeah, so for us it was really looking at that upstream, downstream of what it is and what were the pain points for us both as internal processes and what might be the pain points for customers. So starting to talk to some customers around, you know, what they're actually doing with the things we have, you know, where is the pain, what are the problems, and also I guess reflecting on what do we see coming in, you know, what we come in contact with in terms of our products that are being serviced and what problems come up. And then it was looking at more from a business point of view, you know, what technologies could create value, I guess, in our customer space, and then so they're the ones. That's how we ended up pursuing that. Yep.
Yes, and in terms of what sensors support Industry 4.0, I think Industry 3, I guess, with automation was already quite good, and there's because of the need for automation that took place 20 or 30 years ago, there's a huge number of sensors. They're already tied into machines. This detection is already there. And I think one of the new things, one of the benefits in Industry 4.0 is that data that's being recorded, things that are being measured already, sensors that have been around for 50, 60 years, can now be sent out to computers remotely or locally, depending on how you want to do it, and can tell you a lot about the processes that you might not be able to see very quickly on your own. And so I think one of the things that I talk to a lot of people about is a lot of sort of predictive maintenance on equipment and machinery, and trying to understand, you know, a little bit earlier when things are going to break down. And I think that it's possible to do that on older and older equipment now. So there's a lot of experts that work in, you know, in our network, for example, that do a lot of electronic machines, electronic engines, basically, and being able to look at how things are rotating and vibrating and things like that. And so you can actually start putting sensors now onto older equipment and really start bringing equipment sort of into, I don't know, sort of more modern times. And I think the other thing, and I know Michael spent a lot of time with people like Vina from UNSW. There's a lot of really interesting work that's going on at the universities that's really on the cusp. So a lot of sort of chemical sensing, biological sensing, you know, circular economy, trying to understand the waste that you're making. There's ways to now look at maybe things that could have been difficult to do even 5 years ago. People can make it cheaper to look at sort of the byproducts of what you're doing already. And so that's sort of the other side that I think is not talked about very much, but a lot of chemical sensing and biological sensing is becoming cheaper and more common to do as well. Yep.
Yes, question is to both Andre and Anthony. Suppose I put just a scenario, example I have say, and actually do, a small, simple manufacturing company that I would like to use the automations and turn it to something that's more suitable and more feasible. The question is, supposedly I have all those steps and I just write it down because I'm the one that tells the researcher and also the maker what they need. But when I'm putting this one in the writing and bringing it to researcher and they look at it, they tell me, well, this is all now. We're not gonna find this. You can take it to an engineer outside and get it made. Is that something that you guys could facilitate, or just, or that's what it is? We should go to the maker outside and get it done.
Do you want me to start?
Oh, I can start. Well, rather than writing an extensive piece on paper, I would recommend to actually get the researcher in your manufacturing space and talk about what you're doing now and your ideas about how to improve it. And I think just by being hands-on on location, the conversation will be very different than looking at a lengthy proposal. I mean, researchers are very good at writing lengthy proposals themselves. I don't like them because they're way too long. If they can't put it on the first page and catch my attention, I think it can be 100 pages long. I don't think that excitement will be on page 99. So equally for you to save yourself quite a bit of time, so just high-level ideas, but try to get someone on the manufacturing floor and start talking about it like that.
Well, actually, I did.
Did you?
I did exactly what you said.
With one of our researchers?
I was a researcher myself for
Yeah.
decades. So I did the same thing. And I sat down with a couple of researchers and explained the things, and they said, man, we don't want to take a workforce out and get their work done. This is something that you can get it done outside. And that is not right, actually. I mean, what is happening, if it was something out there, I would have had it to begin with. It is something that needs from A to B, work through it, and get it there. There is nothing like that is a B and you can get it and here it is. Didn't happen, unfortunately. I had a very bad experience with the University of Wollongong, if somebody...
I thought he was going to say
I would just say, I think there's different types of researchers, and I've definitely sat in first meetings with researchers where they spent more time talking to the company than they did listening to what the company wanted. And I think if you have that sort of meeting, you should say thank you and go on and try to meet someone that you have a better connection with. And I think that that's probably the benefit of being in New South Wales, is there's a huge number of research universities, and they're all happy to talk to you and happy to see what you want. And I think even within a single university, you're going to find that there's some researchers that are not interested in doing something that they think might be available already, and then there's going to be other researchers that are actually interested in that challenge. I think the other point that's important to probably keep in mind is that researchers are first and foremost researchers, and so I think what you have to do is find a common sort of language or a common problem, and if you can find something that allows them to research or test something that's unknown, and not just to be a cheaper electrical engineering course, which I'm not saying is what you were trying to get done, then they're a lot happier. And so they want to see that their graduate students can write a thesis, which requires original knowledge. And so as long as the question or the challenge can be framed in a way that everyone's happy, I think that's an important thing to do. But if you didn't find someone that was able to do that or help you make that happen, I would just, like John said, I would shop around and find other people that might be interested.
Can I ask you how you find those academics?
Sorry?
How did you find those academics?
Well, through one of those meetings that we had a couple of years ago.
Okay.
One of those SMEs meeting that we had. And we had a meeting with a couple of those researchers, and we sat down and, well, I had something written, but just to make it easier, David was telling us and how you can put things down, and you need to have something in your hand when you go and talk. So that's all I had.
I think I'll just make a point here, because it is a very relevant point, that there seems to be, and always has been over the years, a bit of a disconnect between the commercial realisations and the academic side. But I've noticed over the last few years, certainly with the introduction of various programs that have come in, BBIP being one of them, that there seems to be a bit of a breakdown on that now, where you've got researchers, Andre, and you're probably, with Reddy over there, would be far more commercially aware of stuff now than maybe 5-10 years ago. Would that be true?
I mean, it's absolutely true. I mean, what we're doing here is a cultural shift for a lot, both for industry and universities, because historically that just hasn't happened, that interaction. So we're all sorting it, trying to understand how the other side is working. So there's definitely a problem with language, like we all talk English, but that doesn't mean you actually understand what the other party is saying. And your listening point is actually a fantastic point, because researchers are very good talking at people about what they like doing and how great they are and how fantastic the research is. which if it hits the mark with the audience, that's great. But if you have to connect all the dots, that is very difficult. So if they just start listening up front a bit longer, till they actually come back with something that is addressing what they just listened to or heard, you will get a better outcome. So a lot of what we do is like trying to educate the researchers and industry about the two sides and get them closer together. So
I think that's so important.
It is.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
Anthony, if I could just before you
Sure.
come on board, I've got a question for Matt, because Matt, you've been through this exercise with the University of Wollongong.
Yep.
Two questions for you really. How did you find that experience dealing with the researchers there? And if you hadn't been able to get any satisfaction from a university, what was your plan B about getting your product developed?
Well, that was...
Or didn't you have one?
No, I didn't. We'll have to say Anthony was the one that, because I'm not an academic, he was the intermediary, I guess, to explain a lot of what, you know, how they'd ask questions or how they'd want the information delivered. And as I said, I had 7 meetings with different academics, and I sort of think of it as they all could give me something that I wanted, but the starting point was a different point for each one. And the only reason I went with Wollongong is they're already working in that space and doing similar work. But really, to that language barrier, it was you know, sorted out with Anthony. And one other thing I was just thinking about, that for small business, I'm a small business owner, so I'm wearing multiple hats, and one of them is marketing. And the big thing, when I explained my idea to people, I said, I want to track building occupants, and they go, okay. And then when you say, and I'm working with the University of Wollongong to do that, everyone goes, oh. So straight away you get that marketing assistance, and that's what the universities as well want to market what they're doing, which is different to just doing research and writing a paper. So suddenly you're getting all this extra advantage, not just the product, but you're getting marketing. And then I'm speaking to people in the University of Wollongong in their marketing section. They're looking at doing press releases. So there's all this assistance that you get, not just the research. So that was, I'm still amazed at what I've got, value for money. But yeah, there wasn't a plan B.
You would have been sitting there if they hadn't.
Yeah.
John, I
Sorry,
think that the other thing to remember is you talked about David and that journey. There are other ways that you could start on that journey through the Small Business Connect program or the Entrepreneurs program, or you could sort of look at the Innovation Connections. There's all of these other support mechanisms that are there for you as well, that can actually, you might not be ready to sort of move into that space. You might want to know where you're going first, know what your marketing strategy is, how you can use that, what your end goal is going to be. And they could actually help you so that you've got a clearer picture in your mind when you go to, or have Anthony working with you, going to the academics. So I think have a look outside the square as well, sort of some of those programs that exist, the Small Business Connect, the Entrepreneurs Program, the Innovation Connections.
I think, thanks Julie, it's a very valid point. A lot of clients that I talk to and businesses that I talk to really don't know what's available. And reinforcing Julie's point, I mean, you've got to go to the government websites and start having a look and seeing and investigating this. Most of the websites are pretty easy to navigate around, but you need to make those sorts of inquiries. You need to do that sort of investigation to find out what assistance there is available. I mean, I don't know how many of you knew Launchpad existed. We happen to be in Western Sydney University, but I mean, all other universities have similar operations, no doubt. Now, and the point that Matt made, if you come in a Launchpad, I'm not doing a commercial for Launchpad, by the way, but if you come in a Launchpad, you don't just get access to researchers, you get access to business mentors who've had a significant commercial experience, you've got all the knowledge about business planning and marketing and financial control, all that sort of stuff. So there's a massive amount of assistance available. You just got to pick up the phone or make some inquiries and then follow up on those inquiries, because all these good people around here are all here to help. And we got them from, what, 3 government departments here today, Julie, and, you know, academics and goodness knows what else. So there's a lot of assistance available to you. That's my other 5 cents worth today. Next questions? Yes, sir.
Just on that subject. I work in the Innovation Connections program, and I sometimes think that there's almost too much assistance available for a business to work out where to start. And I think, yeah, it's important for us all who are involved with these programs to be honest brokers about this sort of thing and help companies work out which program is best for them at a particular time. So in my situation, if I come across a company that is looking at a very small project potentially to start with, I would always refer them to tech vouchers rather than try to push them into innovation connections before they need to. And then, you know, there's opportunities for us to work with the sensor network or the growth centre. There are so many, there's a pathway that companies can pursue over a few years potentially using these different programs. And so when we talk to companies, we should understand exactly where they're at and how we can help them at that particular time and who else who can.
I think you're quite right. I mean, a lot of over the years I've seen that, and I used to be involved in tutoring on business planning, which is a line term nowadays, but there's quite a formalised process associated with that. And I've had clients, in fact, who've locked in government grants depending on what stage of the business plan they're at. And you know, you can do that if you've got some consistency. Well, one, if you know where they are, and two, you've got some sort of consistency from government, state and federal, about the availability of those programs. But we've got Stefan Waitley. Where are you, Stefan? There he is. There. Stefan Waitley from the federal government here. So we're not just looking at state government assistance, there's federal government assistance. And you know, you should be talking to people like Stefan, because there is that sort of assistance available as well. That's another commercial. Right, next question.
On that
Stefan, yeah. This is not a Dorothy Dixon.
No, that's okay. Good leading. So you're absolutely right, but I've got a question for Matt. Now, about 4 months ago, we had a deep conversation.
Yes.
And it was largely around the piece around your business model. And I'm not sure if you're happy to share, because I really loved what you're trying to do. But have you thought through how you're actually going to make money out of it?
Well, that's the big thing, and you mentioned incubators, because I live in southern Sydney, so I'm at the incubator at Anstow, which you might have seen, but that's not my strongest. Like, I've run a business for about 5 or 6 years, so at the moment I'm looking at just the proving that it works, getting that validation that the technology will work, and just because you're counting people in buildings doesn't mean that you can present the information properly or get people to do it. So my next step, once my tech voucher is over, is really to get a pilot site and try and find out the best way to, I believe the building owners are the ones that are going to be my customers, and putting information into their fire control room. But how that, and I'm thinking subscription model, but again, there's building onboarding, there's a lot to go through, so I haven't determined it. But getting an incubator is the huge amount of value. I looked at my incubator, and they're all fairly, they offer the same things. I looked at what it offered me online, went, okay, that looks great, but what I've got is way more than that. So, and especially the connections. But no, that's you got to wear so many hats as a small business owner, and that's something that I'm yet to work out. I've got to get my research done first. So, but it is in the planning. But yeah, very, very difficult. I find that, okay, I've got looking at technology, and I won't say I'm an expert in my field, but I have specialist knowledge, but that doesn't mean I've got business knowledge. So, and that's the other part. Looking for partners is another option for me as well to go down that road. So.
And take advantage of the mentoring that what John said, and Nandon does that as well. So.
Look, yeah, and that's the thing. Even someone that doesn't have any experience in your field or is worked something totally different, they'll have something that they can give you, definitely, especially if they've been through the business journey. You start talking about marketing, or you talk about, business models, then yeah, you can get so much information. If I did it by myself,
product's different.
Principles
the same.
Yeah. So there's a lot of similarities.
Sorry, mate, didn't want to cut you off, mate. Anthony, you want to make a quick point?
Yeah, actually, just wanted to point out, I think the Growth Center, the Advanced Manufacturing Growth Center, is a good organization to sign up and become a member of. And I've heard Michael talk about it, and I think maybe you could more than I could. But the number of companies that they've actually connected to each other just by being around, I I feel like watching your LinkedIn is watching the number of frequent flyer points just tick over for you. I mean, they're everywhere all the time, and in every state. And so the ability to connect you to another company that might actually have worked through this business potential business model, and you seem very happy to connect to people. So I don't know if you want to say anything to that, but.
I mean, even with Anthony's support, we are creating this whole new ecosystem for manufacturing right across the nation. So the ability to connect members is very easy. I mentioned about getting out on the factory floor, and for me, there's nothing better than that. So get on the floor, take some of our great researchers, and make these connections. It's just the connections are outstanding, and the payoffs are already coming through. And then to be able to connect companies like yourself with other businesses where it might make economic sense. Just to be able to open those doors is fantastic. So yeah, more than willing. We've now got over 750 member companies at AMGC, and the good part is it's all free. So you just get on the website and sign up, and we're away.
Would you like this on LinkedIn as well now?
LinkedIn, join up. Find me on LinkedIn.
I've got JP. You've been sitting there very quietly, and I'm sorry, I've got one for you. What would you have done if you hadn't had, say, Western Sydney or any university for that matter? You're confronted with a massive problem relating to costs, financial control, and all that sort of stuff. What would you have done if you didn't have the assistance from us, as it happens, or any other university for that matter, if this wasn't available to you?
Yeah, I could have. Well, you know, it's really hard to survive right out from the garage to start a business in the garage. And if someone comes to see you in the garage, you press the door. It's like, please wait, you gotta crawl in, and you know, it's really, really tough. Yeah. So without being able to get access to a facility like Launchpad here, it is so tough. Yeah.
JP, where do you want to go?
Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Like in the future, or
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
I would like to be able to set up manufacturing right in Australia. There's no point having like 90% of product made in China, and deal with the import and all kinds of customs issues. And we have capable people right in Australia. Yeah. That's what we want to be. Yeah.
Just a little things to add to what JP said. He was very polite and didn't mention a few things. We've been dealing with China for the last 4 years, and one of the things that is very dangerous dealing with them is a fraud.
Yes.
I don't. Anyone who dealt with China knows that once, or at least once, beaten by them.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Okay, we've got time for one more last question before we summarise the whole thing and then have a networking lunch. So,
Probably just got a comment.
yeah. Well,
We're a business located out of Glendenning.
Yep.
Been there for quite some time, and I'm very happy to see LNA up here. So we're a steel fabricating business as well, and I'm sort of going through that process of, with the old, the old sort of leaders in the business and trying to get innovation through.
Yep.
Very keen to see work done in Western Sydney for any form of works that are out there. The only reason why I'm here today is because I saw the email pop up and it said advanced manufacturing, and I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea, hence why I'm here, or else I'll be at another meeting trying to have an argument with a builder or something like that. And I think it's very good. I'm very happy that people have taken on this sort of initiative. It's wonderful to see. I think back to everyone here is, if I would have missed that email, then how would I have known about this? Because I've been to many universities. This is one of the first ones I went to, and there was nothing here when I was here. But how do you make sure that you stay on my front screen? Because if I couldn't have made it today, how do I come to the next one?
Do you leave your card with us? Anybody who leaves a card within 100 metres of this place, automatically put into a database. So I can't promise you won't get special offers.
No, that's
but
fine.
This is
I think it's a great thing. This is a key thing we're doing at the AMGC. So if you go onto the website again, you'll see an interview that we did with David and Louis about LNA, and they're sharing their story on that YouTube channel that we've created. So we've got a whole range of members right across Australia that have shared their story. You can watch it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Get on the Manufacturing Academy website and you'll see these real life case studies from people just like you that are transforming their business right now. And we welcome your feedback. But then, you know, the regular newsletters that Julie talked about from the department.
I was just going to say, on the Advanced Manufacturing Connect, and maybe we can put that up, the web page up. What we'll do is we're having 4 of these, so we're going to showcase the relationships that 4 universities that are involved in the Boost program, but also broader than that as well, and who have a relationship with New South Wales Smart Sensing Network. So they'll be at Western Sydney Uni was the first one. Then we go to UNSW, UTS and Newcastle as well. And just on that, the support programs, what we're trying to do is have a uniform approach across government as well, not just sort of from the New South Wales government point of view, but there are so many different programs out there that you can have access to. We have a roadmap. Now, it's actually under review, so that's why it's not appearing on the Connect program yet. But as soon as that review is finished, we'll just put that back up. It's a great roadmap. It just goes through from start to finish, you know, sort of along the journey, who could you access for support as well as for funding as well. So if you go on to Connect, we'll be sort of linking you to AMGC, to their academy and their events, NSSN, and all the other sort of programs as well. So sort of the continuity will be sort of through that Advanced Manufacturing Connect.
Yeah, well that's good because it's got to be as easy as possible for small to medium-sized businesses. I mean, the larger guys probably got a dedicated person to do all these sort of things, but for us, we're usually, you know, stuck in meetings or dealing with a supplier or dealing with whoever it is, and then all of a sudden you see an email about something interesting, you go, I'll get to that. But you kind of never get to it because you're
and I think the point that was made sort of very early on to me was through the Connect program, you're actually acknowledging that you want to have those emails as well. So then you don't get put into the spam sort of basket as well. And I think that's an important thing on privacy.
I think just the fact that you're here today is great. You know, that's what we need to encourage more manufacturers to get out and about. It's great that you found that email. But you know, we're engaging with journalists right across the country as well. We've got people here from Manufacturers Monthly. So people are willing to share your story, even if this is where you are today. That would be an interesting case study to say, here I am now, I came to this event and I'm willing to learn. And we want to share those sort of stories and those journeys, because otherwise we risk skipping a generation to get into this sector. It's already 10% of the Australian workforce. We need more people to get involved. And so we want to share those stories.
Launchpad website too. You know, we've got a website. In fact, this event will probably be on the website now. So when we're doing events like this, that will be on the website. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much indeed to the panel. Well done, guys. Anthony, would you like to just come up and summarise? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just do it from here. I think it's
by
probably
all means.
easier. Anyways, thank you everyone for coming out. We're all going to be here, I guess, for the next half hour. I'll stick around as long as people have questions and want to talk to me at least. I wanted to quickly thank the Department of Industry, both Julie and Ingrid for supporting this and bringing all of us here. Obviously, Western Sydney University and Launchpad for hosting us. And then, the AMGC and the NSSN, we're all very happy to connect to as many of you as possible and hope that we can help you out. So thank you for coming and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for attending today. On behalf of the university, please, sorry, we didn't pay for this. There is now a networking lunch available, so please feel free to stay around and network. Thank you.